Welcome to the 5 Flavors of Happiness, hosted by Susan Piper. Hey everyone, welcome to the 5 Flavors of Happiness. I am so happy that you are here today. We have an amazing guest. This is going to be an incredible show. But before we get into it and before I tell you who she is, I do ask everybody a big giant favor. If you're vibing with our show, please go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel. It helps us grow the channel so that we can meet even more amazing people like you. So, today I am thrilled that not only is she an amazingly patient woman, I've just found out because she dealt with all of my scheduling issues, wrong link issues, so endlessly patient and kind. But she's truly an inspirational woman. She's an award winning entrepreneur, a Forbes contributing writer, a Substack author, and she's also a podcaster, guys. So check out her podcast. It's Badass Women at Any Age. I mean, just the title alone, you have to love and respect her. She is an executive coach and author of Not Done Yet. This book is amazing. Um, it tackles, I would say, I think probably like the last hidden taboo. It's something that people really don't want to face. And I would think $1 billion industry has been built to try to fight it. It is it is ageism, folks. Yes, we are going there today, and she is gonna talk to us all about it. Welcome to the show, the amazing Bonnie Marcus.
Oh, Susan, thank you so much. Wow, what an introduction. Thank you.
Well, this is a relatively short podcast, guys, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. And I think the biggest thing for me, Bonnie, when I read your book, my real takeaway was about how sometimes the onus is also on us, like how we have to shift our mindset. It's not on other people. And I know with me, I think I grew up with thinking that you do this at this age in your life, at this age in your life, you do that. And then at this age, you do this, and you don't change, you don't pivot. And that's the way it is. And you talk about changing your own mindset. Can you talk to us about that and why it's important?
Well, Susan, one of the first things I realized when I was writing this book is I became so aware of my own ageist assumptions, just like you said. Like, oh, well, and certainly this was reinforced by messages that I got, like my mother. You need to have your children before you're 30, right? All these kinds of boxes that we're put in when we listen to these messages. But the fact is that we internalize a lot of them. And then we put ourselves in a box. And then we hold ourselves back from living a life where we reach our full potential, where we are totally happy and feel fulfilled. So the assumptions that we make about ourselves are extremely powerful. And we need to recognize their power, what those assumptions are. We need to identify them so that we can challenge them and reframe them and really take their power away. Because the first step is really understanding what your beliefs are and then saying, well, is that really true? Does that need to be true? No. Do I really need to have all my kids by the time I'm 30? No. So, I mean, challenging them really gives you the freedom to live your life.
I love that. And it's so true. Our self-talk, it could hurt us. And oh, talk about self-talk. You talk about the self-talk and the inner critic, and you gave her a name. Talk to us about that.
Well, yeah, I name my inner critic Trudy. And because I have a relationship with that inner critic, right? And because I'm making that more of an intimate relationship, I can tell her when she's full of crap. I can tell her when, just to be quiet and go away. Um, or I can listen and maybe take some advice because after all, that dialogue in our head has a purpose of trying to protect us. But, just like a well-meaning friend, you can take some of the advice, but then really question a lot of it. And I think that having that kind of a personal relationship gives you more power in that relationship, to be able to have those internal discussions and to move away from the negative talk that, in my case, Trudy often gives me every single day, and not to pay so much attention that it really fuels it and really takes away our power. I mean, I would advise everybody to give a name.
I love that. I love that she's Trudy. I feel like she's a person. Maybe she's here with us.
Well, she's
It's so
definitely
great.
here.
But let's talk about um when we talk about the inner critic, there's also the other side of the coin, right? And we're taught so much as young women or young people um not to brag about ourselves. And that's not I was taught, and sorry mom if you're listening. Well, because she probably is listening. Um I was taught that it's always better to have somebody else say something nice about you. Don't say it about yourself and be quiet and be respectful. And you're saying, come on, ladies, it's okay. It's okay to say wonderful things about yourself. Talk to us about that.
Well, I think and I definitely went into this a lot in my first book, The Politics of Promotion, because I think it's really important for women especially to own their talent and own their ambition. And when somebody said, "Oh, wow, you made a great point in that meeting," or you really did well on that," and not just kind of discount it and say, "Oh, yeah," like in thinking, "Oh, anybody could have done that," right? So the first part is really recognizing the value that we bring, how we contribute, and then owning it, not downplaying it. And so it's really important to first go through the process of figuring out what is unique about us, and then being able to articulate it, but not articulate it in a way that's bragging. Like, "Oh, you need to put me on this project because 'cause I'm the smartest one in this department." Or, it if it comes across as bragging, it's not gonna resonate with anybody else. It's gonna turn them off. It's just like, I really am very much against an elevator pitch because the elevator pitch is me, 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 right? Um, but when you understand how you can serve others, when you understand your value, and you ask questions about what are some of your challenges, what are some of the things you're working on that maybe you're stuck and maybe I can help, you're then connecting the dots between what you bring to the table and what they want and need. And that sticks because, yes, you're talking about how you can help and what you do, but you're not leading with me, 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 and why I'm so smart and wonderful and you need to hire me, etc. When you make it more about the other person and what they want and need, people listen because people want to know what's in it for them, really. Um, so bragging doesn't work. It's not politically correct. And we feel uncomfortable, especially as women, uh, bragging in the workplace. It really doesn't get us anywhere. It turns people off. And the best way to do it effectively and authentically, which is also important, is to really understand your value. Um, but if you can bring on allies and champions and people who who understand your value and can advocate for you, all the better, right? So that's all about how do you build a strategic network and how do you find those people and do they understand your work and your accomplishments, etcetera. So that if you're not there in a meeting or whatever, somebody else can raise their hand and say, "Oh, have you forgot about Bonnie? Maybe she would be a good fit for this." Right? And yes, to your point earlier, that's very, very powerful. But you wanna be able to do both.
Hmm. Absolutely. You also talk in your book about journaling, and I had a guest on recently, and they talked about the power of journaling, and I started to do it. I thought she was amazing, and I'm meeting so many amazing people like you. I'm so lucky to have this podcast. She's actually out in LA as well. Um, and she was talking about you were talking about success journals. So why are they so important? Tell everybody and why they should do it.
I tell all of my clients to do that, to keep a success journal, and here's the reason why. Um, so picture you're coming home from work one day, right? And the thoughts that go you're kind of thinking about the day, and you're thinking about a meeting you had, and your first thought is, "Oh, I really sounded stupid when I made that point," or "I should have raised my hand and said something here." Um, and we should all over ourselves because that's our default thinking, right? So those kinds of negative thoughts um, stick with us like Velcro. When somebody says, "Wow, you really brought up a good point in that meeting," or I like that idea about this new project." Those kinds of compliments roll off of us like Teflon. So it's the Velcro Teflon syndrome, where the negative sticks and the positive rolls off of us. But when you keep a success journal, every day you make an entry of something big, something small. Maybe it's you got home for dinner on time, you were able to make soccer practice, you put in a good full day at work, whatever it is, you put that down in your success journal. It make at least one entry a day. Doesn't need to be, I just closed $1 million deal. I mean, that's good too. But just put it all down there, and then at the end of the week, review all your entries and say to yourself, "What does this all say about me?" Right? So now you're beginning to own it. And also, you won't forget it. It's really a good written record of everything that you've achieved over the year. And I advise all my clients to keep this. And at the end of the year, if they're in the workplace and they want to perform it, they have to do a self review. Got all the stuff there, right? But owning that success is really, really important. Owning your accomplishments, really, really important.
I feel like we're going back to the mindset because this is changing your mindset by writing the success journal.
Exactly, Susan. So we do have the power to change our neural pathways in our brain.
Huh.
And the success journal is a great tool to do that.
So interesting. I think though that this is even transcends work, right? Isn't this also about life? Now, do you do this at home and then at the end of the year, do you look through it and say, like, wow, I have your amazing podcast and you are a badass woman and you got all these guests and all these views? Like, do you look at that at the end of every year?
No, I look at it more frequently. So bear in
Okay.
mind, I've got this partner, Trudy, who's telling me I didn't do a good enough job, right? And so I like to review the success journal, especially when she's criticizing me and saying, "Oh, but look at that. I wrote that article. I did this, I did that." It just kind of it keeps you in a positive mindset that pushes away all that default negative thinking. Um, so it's a good thing to do because to your point, it doesn't need to be at work. We will constantly criticize ourselves about anything we do, about the way we parent, about the way about our relationships, whatever it is. We'll find a reason, right? So the success journal is a great tool.
Isn't it crazy though that we do? That that's our default as people, and I feel like it transcends men and women and age. We all do it. I just wish there was a way we could all have our default be positive instead, you know?
Well, some of these tools will help.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and the idea is from everything I've done, from all the research, all this self criticism and negative beliefs, they never go away. But the goal is to not give them power and to not fuel those negative thoughts. So if you can say, "Oh, Trudy, shut up today, right? I've had enough of you." However you do it, you are taking back control and taking back your power.
But you had said something, and I'm gonna quote you verbatim. The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. Talk to us about that.
Well, think about it for a minute, right? If we are if we are in a relationship and we believe that we don't have the power to voice our opinions or to speak up, then we've totally lost control of that power. Um, I actually like to work with my clients to and advise them to keep like a little bit of a diary of when you are giving your power away throughout the day. And it's really important and it helps you to see and build awareness like, wow, I really compromised myself when I did that. And it could be anywhere. It could be in the grocery store, it could be in an important relationship. It could be at work. But once we become aware of how we are actually giving up our power, then we can turn it around and control the narrative so that we can take that power back.
Can we unpack that? Because I think it seems almost abstract. So, can you give me an example of how somebody gives away their power?
Ah, so many ways. Let's see. Well, certainly in the workplace, um, not letting somebody interrupt you, not letting them um, give you a platform to speak, and you just remain silent is a way of giving up. Or say somebody makes an offhanded comment about you. Say somebody says something um, about about your age, about your looks, and you just don't say anything. You're giving up your power. And I'm not saying you need to be really confrontational, but it's really important to say, when you made that remark, when you said that remark, this is the way it made me feel. That's all you need to say.
Hmm, I like that. I like the fact that you're not advocating for confrontation, but just owning how you feel and speaking your truth.
Yeah. And in situations like that, Susan, I'll add that sometimes people make offhanded comments and they're not really aware kind of the impact it has on you or how biased maybe it is or how ageist maybe it is. It was just kind of a remark that they thought was funny. And I talk about this a lot in my book, not done yet. Um, I believe we have a responsibility to let them know how we feel and how it made us feel, and that it was biased because I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to people who make some of these comments, right? That they're just kind of spitting out all the ageist stuff, all the gender bias stuff that's ingrained in our society anyway. But, it's like picking up a Hallmark card that says, has an older woman with a bottle of liquor saying, it's the only way she can face her next birthday. You know, like, do we really buy that card and send that to somebody? Yikes.
No, we don't. We definitely don't. But sometimes we can understand the intent is humor, and sometimes I think people don't have malicious intent. It's just they're not informed. And I think that just letting people know, like, hey, let me just inform you and kind of level you up so that you could be a little bit more aware and not trigger other people.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that's awesome. But I want to talk about another thing about our mindset. And you're talking about a growth mindset, and that how a growth mindset is so fundamental for us to keep it. And I'll never forget this. Bonnie, it was so interesting. I had just started this new job in this big corporation, and I'm not going to say the name of it. And the woman's no longer there, but I had asked her because I was more junior than she is. And I said she had a problem with her computer. And I said, oh, do you want me to fix it for you? Or do you want me to teach you how to do it? And she said, looked at me point blank, and she said, I have learned everything I need to learn in life. Just do it for me. And I said, wow. In my mind, I was like, we're never going to be friends. Dude, but talk to me about why it's so important not to say something like that.
Well, I mean, and that is such a great example, Susan, of a fixed mindset. It's like I already have the answers, or I'm not going to learn anything new from anybody else. And even as I'm expressing it, I can feel how close-minded that is. Because when we have a growth mindset, we believe that there's unlimited possibilities to things that we can learn that's new, to ways that we can grow personally and professionally. And we're very fortunate that we live in a time where there's so many resources readily available. In fact, it's overload, right? Um, Whether you're on social media, the internet, there's just so many things that are available in terms of podcasts and audiobooks and books to read, certainly, and master classes and online courses, right? There's just so many ways to learn new things every day. But here's another little tip that I like to do. At the end of the day, when I'm in bed and ready to go to sleep, I will say to myself, ask myself, what is one new thing I learned today?
I love
And right? And not only does that help me kind of acknowledge something that I picked up, maybe it's something you said, Susan, right? It could be anything. What is one new thing that I learned today? What that does is it helps you build awareness to everything that you're kind of soaking in and learning on a daily basis. That really helps you grow.
I
And
love
again,
that.
Susan, that's mindset.
It is. It's all about us. We've got to change our mindset. And then you just live a happier life. Um, but there is one last question I have for you. And it's because when I read it, I wrote it down. I thought it was so cool. You wrote the words willfully overcoming complacency. And I just think, guys, that's so cool. Willfully overcoming complacency. Just let that sink in. It's about getting out of the comfort zones. So I kind of feel like that kind of ties in with learning something new and why it's so important. But talk to us about complacency.
Well, first of all, the phrase willfully overcoming is intentional, right? So it's the opposite of complacency. It's living your life with intention. It's, um, getting out of the ruts and the habits and the beliefs that you hold that really hold you back from living a happy life, from living a full life. And though we all like to retreat to our comfort zone every so often, and we need to, because it really kind of refuels us and helps us to then get out of that comfort zone, challenge ourselves, and move forward, which is wonderful. So I'm not saying don't ever be in your comfort zone, but what I'm saying is that there's so much more to life than the little bubble that you live in, that we live in, and it's ours to explore. Uh,
I love that you moved to Los Angeles and you got out of your bubble and you were like, I'm going to go and this place makes me happy. Oh, is it? I don't know whether it's LA or San Diego. I used to live in West LA.
Santa
So
Barbara. I live in Santa
oh,
Barbara.
okay, so well, beautiful. But I love the fact that you were like, "It's so beautiful here, and this makes my soul happy, and it's my life." And even though, I can't remember whether it was Connecticut or New York, was home. Oh, and that was like, okay, I know the grocery stores, I know the doctors, I know everybody, and now I'm gonna know nobody. But you did it.
Yeah, I was, speaking at a conference at UC Santa Barbara, and, they flew me in for the night or whatever, and I did the opening keynote, and so I was done early, and somebody said, "Oh, there's a great little restaurant you should stop for breakfast, right on the beach." So I before I drove back to LA, I stopped and, ordered myself a big Bloody Mary because, like, wow, I made it through that keynote, had some breakfast, and I'm looking around, Susan, and it was so beautiful, right? The Pacific Ocean, the mountains.
Gorgeous.
In Santa Barbara, we have both, and I was like, "Wow." And, and I felt something, some kind of really soulful connection, and I said, "I could live here, right? Uh, Based on what I do, I can live anywhere." And this is intention, right? That was in August, and by October 1st, I moved into my first apartment here. I closed down 2 houses, moved all my stuff, and, yeah, didn't know anyone, but
Wow.
it was my
And
happy place.
that's because you've changed your fixed mindset, and you were just like, "No way. Oh my god. I love how courageous you are. You are such an inspiration." Oh, Bonnie, do you have 1 more minute for us?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the part of the podcast where I do the fast round, and I just ask 5 really quick questions, and then you could just give me one-word answers or whatever pops into your mind. Okay. I am happiest when
I'm with my family.
beautiful. The best way to find happiness is
Self-acceptance.
oh, wow. Yes. If happiness was a place, where would it be?
Well, let me say right now, Santa Barbara.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say that. And ooh, if you have one piece of advice for younger Bonnie, what would it be?
To do to be more internally focused rather than externally focused. To be
Mm.
less of a pleaser. Please myself first, I guess. That's the answer. Please myself first.
Oh, yes, because it's so hard to say no. And the very last question, Bonnie, if happiness was a flavor or a food, what would it taste like?
Chocolate.
Absolutely. I love chocolate too, buddy. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for being endlessly patient with me. And guys, go ahead and check out Bonnie's podcast, Badass Women at Any Age for the Badass Bonnie. Thank you so much for being with us. Great
Oh, thanks,
conversation.
Susan. This was a great conversation. Loved it.
Awesome. Bye, guys.